Media brings you news from all over Africa. Today news is about Ethiopia.
Ethiopia is an ancient country whose unique cultural heritage, rich history, and remarkable biodiversity attracts many, and makes it one of the most beautiful countries in Africa. Compelling antiquities, beautiful mountains, spectacular volcanic landscapes, and a wealth of mammals and birds found nowhere else in the world. There's plenty to see in this East African nation. Known as the Land of Origins, Ethiopia is an East African nation that shares borders with Eritrea and Djibouti to the north, Somalia to the east, Kenya to the south, South Sudan to the west, and Sudan to the northwest. With a population of over 110 million people, Ethiopia is the second most populous nation in Africa after Nigeria, and the 12th most populous nation in the world. Its capital Addis Ababa is one of the most important cities in Africa, and it is also considered as Africa's political capital due to the presence of many African organizations in the city. A multicultural society, Ethiopia is home to over 80 ethnic groups with different culture, traditions, and of course a rich history. There are many interesting facts about Ethiopia, the only country that defeated colonialism. Ethiopia is the only country in Africa that successfully defeated colonialists during the scramble for Africa in the 19th century, and it is one of the only two countries in Africa, the other being Liberia, that were never colonized. Ethiopia has never been colonized by a European country throughout its history, as it successfully defeated all the invading forces. Apart from that, Ethiopia is also the first African nation to join the League of Nations, an intergovernmental organization which was formed in 1920 after the First World War, later replaced by the United Nations, one of the oldest nations in the world. Ethiopia is the oldest independent country in Africa, and one of the world's oldest. As a country, Ethiopia has its origin in about 980 BC, when one of the first kingdoms, known as the Mount, rose to power. Ethiopia comprises of more than 80 ethnic groups, and as many languages. This country has long been an intersection between the civilizations of North Africa, the Middle East and the rest of Africa. Due to this fact, Ethiopia is often referred to as the cradle of civilization. With its rich culture and history, multi-ethnic and multifaceted society where the art of hospitality is alive and well, Ethiopia attracts millions of tourists each year. Ethiopia is synonymous with coffee. Coffee was first discovered by the goat herder Kaldi in the Kaffa region in Ethiopia. Today, Ethiopia is the fifth largest producer of coffee in the world, and Africa's top producer. The Ethiopian coffee is widely considered as the best coffee in Africa, and most people who have tasted it admit that they cannot start a day without having one. Ethiopians themselves developed several ritualized and ceremonious ways to make and drink coffee. One of the oldest Christian nations in the world. While Christianity was mostly introduced in Africa between 15th and 19th century, and predominantly during the colonial era, this is not the case in Ethiopia, as Christianity existed in the country as early as the 4th century. It was around 330 AD, when the apostle of Ethiopia Frumentius converted the Aksumite king Ezana, whom made Christianity the empire's official religion, making Ethiopia one of the earliest nations in the world to practice Christianity. Today, Ethiopians predominantly practice Christianity, with Christians making up to 61% of the total population, 43% of them being Ethiopian Orthodox, while 18% are Protestants. Besides that, Ethiopia is also one of the few countries in Africa that are mentioned in the Bible and the Holy Quran, and also houses antiquities that help in defining the history and events that are taught in these religions, including the Ethiopian Bible, which is the oldest Bible in the world. Ethiopia, home to one of the most beautiful women in Africa. The ladies of Ethiopia charm foreign men with their rare beauty. They are considered by many as the most beautiful women in Africa. These women differ from girls from other countries by their personal features. They are independent, hardworking, and strong. Ethiopian women are religious and modest. These peculiarities are perfectly combined with the adorable appearance of girls from Ethiopia. Most Ethiopian women have high cheekbones, dark hair, big eyes, plump lips, and silky skin, while their hair can be either straight or curly. Their attitude towards their families, kids, and husbands makes them a perfect choice for marriage. For decades, Ethiopian ladies have been topping the list of the most beautiful women in Africa. Ethiopia, the symbol of Africa's sovereignty and pride. Thanks to its rich history which dates back many centuries ago, its great leaders, diversity, and its active participation in many Pan-African movements, Ethiopia is one of the most respected countries in Africa, and often regarded as the symbol of Africa's sovereignty and pride. Ethiopia has served as a symbol of African independence throughout the continent's colonial period, and was a founder member of the United Nations and the African base for many international organizations. Ethiopia, home of the Ark of the Covenant. Aksum, in Ethiopia, is famous as a claimant to the final resting place of the Ark of the Covenant, the chest containing the 10 Commandments God gave to Moses, and the standing obelisk, which is 75 feet, 23 meters, high. With windows and doors, it looks like the world's first skyscraper. Preserved secretly and intelligently by Ethiopia's Orthodox Church, it is believed the world's most valuable precious antiquity is in Ethiopia, which according to Jewish and Christian tradition, it describes the Ark of the Covenant as the physical manifestation of God's presence and supreme power.